Alrighty, welcome back to another devlog. This is number 57. So, this week I got a bunch done. At the start of the week, I was kind of got a bug in my head about my computer hardware. It's been a while since I checked on my hardware, the specs, to see if they're up to date, and in fact, it had been about 5 years since I had purchased my last CPU. So all the performance issues I've been facing, really, one of the major causes is because my hardware was getting completely out of date. And while it was once a top of the line CPU, I really had to go and do my research and get another more modern CPU to continue my work. I hadn't realized how much it was slowing down my process. After I got the new CPU ordered at a little bit of a cost, I installed everything, and I noticed right away the performance of the task has been vastly improved. And you see that the day-to-day operations, just switching between everything, it all really adds up. All the context switches, that takes like 1 to 2 seconds here, hangs 1 to 2 seconds there. It's just the overall performance, like, you don't even notice it. And the compile times are like, where it would take like a minute or two each time you compile, now it's like 20 seconds. So it's like, now I don't have time to switch between a video and watch a video for a little bit while it compiles every time. So I'm just constantly like in a workflow now, and all through the week now, doing things like setting breakpoints, debugging, it's no longer a painful, painstaking process. It's actually pretty fluid and fluent and it jumps back and forth between VS Code and the editor pretty good. It just doesn't hang like it used to. So we're really rocking and rolling now. So proper tools for the job. It was really like working with a dull knife. You just didn't notice it until you actually got the knife sharpened up. So this week of work, I felt that I got a lot more done than I usually do, just because of pure compile swiftness with my new CPU. But this week I was focusing this week on a lot of features around aiming and firing, mostly firing, like shooting. Make sure that my existing weapons were functional, like the pistol and the rifle. Make sure that when you aim and you fire, that everything associated with that is looking good. So like movement wise and whatnot. So make sure that the projectiles, so just a bunch of testing. So the main goal here was to get this in production ready shape. So a lot of testing between all the different states of walking, equipping, aiming, firing, just putting it through its paces. And pretty much anything I see that's out of order, I go in and polish it up, whether it's an animation that looks kind of off, or just like all these little edge cases that you don't think about. Like one of the edge cases was if you're locking aim and you actually crouch, there wasn't a way to handle the transition, because it's an aiming transition from one to the other, and it would just like you get this snap. But now with the fixes, just these little details that when you go down, it just smoothly lerps to the position. So validating, then once I got the aim down, I made sure that the actual aim assist is working. Like a lot of things, when you come back to it, adding new functionality, basically a lot of things are mostly broken, and you just have to validate and fix, find the disconnected wires and reconnect them in some sense. Also, the refactoring the components in the main in the character controller now. I don't have any issues in the editor, like taking up a whole bunch of frame rate now that everything's split out into its own objects. But that comes with its own problems. Like later in the week, I was working on the cover controller, and it's just a lot of these Invector ones really make the assumption that it's all on the root. It's all on the root object, and it just having to make sure that calls to like transform dot rotate, like read and set, the context is no longer on the root object, but now you have to like pretty much tell it where the root object is to operate on. So just fixing issues as I see them. The major work for this week, I think on like Wednesday and Thursday, I got to the point of working on not necessarily the equip functionality, but the dual pistol firing functionality. Now adding functionality to the system for equip was one thing, but actually making it adding functionality so it could actually fire was a whole nother thing, and that was like a 2-day challenge. So I had what was that? It was a little snappy. See, like little things like that, like you get a little bit of snap there. I gotta write that down. But anyways, so I had to figure out how to get the correct projectile spawn position for not just one um, not just one weapon but two weapons now, and it was always a challenge getting the correct position where to spawn the projectiles in world space. I got it stable and steady for the other guns, but doing it for the dual weapon was very tricky, very challenging. So, like I worked on in previous weeks, the actual IK system, it doesn't like to report a consistent and steady um, position after the IK has been. So everything that's affected by the IK system kind of fluctuates back and forth between one transform and the other. Um, it's kind of like an unstable, unsteady, like when you're reading the transform and trying to set a position in world space. Especially in the editor, it fluctuates. You can see these little glitches. But I got it to a testing position mostly reliable where it actually, every time you do set the world space, it will be in a consistent position. It's just in the editor that it looks kind of odd. And that's just one of the things you deal with. But doing the testing, I'm pretty confident and satisfied in the implementation that I have. I was having real trouble setting the second position here, but I was able to do it by taking this position and shifting it by an offset. If I was to calculate the muzzle position of the second weapon, it would never calculate it right, and it was always looking funny. So, but so it just took a lot of testing, trial and error, and just to really narrow it down to where at some point it gets to a point where it's actually looking pretty good. So, and there's this like offset too, like one shoots and then the other, and then other things like getting the actual kickback right of the shots, because like getting the animator right, so it gets quite complicated. So shooting one will move they fire at different times, but it's like you can get a kickback animation of the left hand and the right hand separately, but just like all the other guns, like since it's locked in the aim position, it can't take full advantage of a full vertical animation. It's like you get some kickback animation, but it's going to remain pinned by the actual the aim constraint weight that it usually that's under the influence of. So doing a lot of testing, make sure that it's actually looking pretty solid, pretty good. I'm satisfied with it, and enough to go on with. And so that took a couple days to finally get it right, to finally get it to a position where I could be happy with it. It's just modifying the existing system, because the existing system doesn't have dual weapon functionality out of the box. So no easy task, but I got it working at the end of the day. So all that, and just keep testing and fixing a bunch of small issues throughout the day for the end of the week here. I put one more day. I added so I fixed up the actual I fixed up the actual projectiles so they would, for some reason, they weren't lighting up, but I got it all, working again how it should be with the impacts and the, the VFX, and then also what I did, they had some sort of pooling functionality, but um, it wasn't 100%. Um, so I actually had to go and make it work right to where it would spawn, like when you equip the weapon, it would spawn 50 projectiles, and then add a few more things to where you shoot it, it'll do an impact, but it won't destroy the projectile. It'll just kind of do its thing and put itself back into the pool for later use. Um, so what we have here, actually, yeah, you get some impact here. It just happens so fast, but you get some. Oh, here's the pool here. Yeah, it just like activates the right one, and then it doesn't destroy the projectile. It just, so this saves it from constantly creating and destroying projectiles on the fly, and it really improves performance and optimization. Stop that. So got that fixed up. And yeah, just mainly just like 1,000 small little things, just doing a bunch of testing. Everything that I see, I polish it up for production. I can, so nothing is really looking too shabby. At the end of the week, I started in on getting the cover functionality back working again, and of course, everything is pretty much everything is pretty much busted with the cover controller. I got it to actually where you can interact with it again, but ever since refactoring the layers and refactoring the character controller, things are just totally wiped out as far as. So I kind of have to go in and fix everything that's broken. It's like the system's mostly intact, but it just like you got to go find the wires that are disconnected and replug it in. Pretty much test from the ground up the cover functionality again and make sure it's all working like it did before. So, yeah, just testing in any issues I see, and that was pretty much weak. So got a bunch of stuff done. The main thing was the finishing up the dual pistol functionality and aiming and shooting validated for all the weapons. And now for next week, it'll be working on the cover controller, or working on cover functionality and getting that working again. And then if I have time next week, that'll fixing up the stealth controller again, and then shield controller, and I should be done with version 3 of the character controller after all that's said and done. So the aim assist on the dual pistol is working. So yeah, so more to do next week, but this week got a lot done thanks to my new hardware, and I think I should be able to do more of a steady clip with my new tools. So we'll just keep going. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you on the next one.